Hopefully you're feeling rested and ready for a full day of exploring, because today's itinerary is packed with beauty, history and charm. The best part? It's all easily doable by train. Perugia is very well connected to Assisi. And yes, Assisi, the city of St. Francis, will be our town for the day. Now, whether you are religious, spiritual, or simply curious, this town is filled with serene corners and stunning surprises that are sure to leave you in amazement. The very first step is just outside of Assisi and very convenient, especially if you get here by train. It is the Church of Santa Maria degli Angeli. Now, from the outside it looks like a grand church, but the real treasure is inside its walls. It is a tiny little stone chapel called the Porziuncola. This was the place where St. Francis used to come and pray. Basically, this is where he started his journey and even founded the Franciscan order. Later on, people realized how important this spot was, so they built an entire basilica around it. So now, the humble little chapel sits right in the middle of this huge church. Fascinating, isn't it? Now, do you want to know another interesting story about this chapel? This is where St. Francis received the vision of Jesus and Mary. This event later led the Pope to grant the Pardon of Assisi, basically a plenary indulgence or full forgiveness of sins to those who visit the chapel. Right next to the Basilica, there is a small museum where you can see a beautiful display of the Presepe di Greccio, which is a representation of the very first nativity scene that was inspired by St. Francis when he visited the town of Greccio. In other words, the nativity scenes that many of us set up at Christmas trace back to when St. Francis staged a live nativity with the people of the town of Greccio in 1223. And this nativity you see here is a tribute to that moment. We now head to the town of Assisi. Before arriving at the Basilica of St. Francis, you'll stroll through its charming streets. Here you can wander cobblestone streets, browse little artisan shops, maybe grab a gelato, and enjoy the following two highlights. Number 1, Piazza Santa Chiara, St. Clare Square. This piazza is located just outside the Basilica of St. Clare. From here, you not only get a beautiful view of the elegant rose windows on the facade of the church, but also, if you walk to the edge of the square, you are treated to a stunning panoramic view of the Umbrian countryside. Now, the basilica contains the remains of St. Clare, a devoted follower of St. Francis. She was the first woman inspired by him to formally follow his path. She went on to found the Order of the Poor Ladies, which embraced the same principle of poverty, simplicity, and service. Eventually, even her mother and her sister joined the order. Now, highlight number 2 is a personal favorite. It catapults you straight back to the Roman era. These massive, beautiful preserved Corinthian columns mark the entrance to what was once a Roman temple dedicated to the goddess Minerva. Later, it was transformed into a Christian church. Now, standing here, touching those white columns, you can almost feel time rewinding up 2,000 years back in time. Next stop is the Basilica of St. Francis. Built right into the side of the hill, it's actually 2 churches in one. You begin below, where the body of St. Francis rests in a simple stone box, bound with iron ties, humbled and unadorned, just like the life he lived. Climbing up, you enter the lower basilica. Now, the frescoes by Cimabue depicting the life of St. Francis are vivid and expressive. The whole space gave me a sense of spiritual connection, something far greater than words can capture, and you'll see what I mean. And then, as you ascend to the upper basilica, you are surrounded by even more frescoes, this time by Giotto, depicting the terrestrial and spiritual life of St. Francis. Now, hopefully you've had a nice lunch and full of energy to visit the last site of the day. The place to see is the Ermo delle Ceneri, or Carceri Hermitage, a peaceful retreat in the forest where St. Francis and his followers would go to pray and reflect in solitude. You have a couple of options to get there. You can hike about 2.5 miles or 1.5 hours up hills, which I recommend as it is a beautiful walk through nature, or take a shuttle from Assisi. I had a bicycle and loved the ride up and back down. Once you get to the site, you realize that this is the place that you have always fantasized about moving to when you had enough of crowds and chaotic big city living. Now, as soon as you step through the gate of the Ermo delle Ceneri, every thought in your mind seems to disappear, and a deep feeling of quiet and peace will accompany you as you walk through the gravel path. As you walk towards the entrance of what is now the Hermitage, you'll find yourself in a small, cozy courtyard. Make your way inside. The spaces are simple and follow the narrow stone walls through the tiny cells where the friars prayed, and even a cave where St. Francis is said to have slept. And if you want to see something living that's been here since the time this place was used by St. Francis, look for the tree labeled Tree from the Time of St. Francis.